right, there we go. Okay, on the right thing. So by no means is this speech anything that has anything to do with equity or equality in the workforce. It is simply an informational presentation based off of data as well as my own personal experience. And so I hope by the end of it that you will have learned something and maybe even be inspired. So I also want to say thank you to my coworker who allowed me to rope her into coming today. Pam, what I love about Pam, she's our scheduler at our branch. Pam is an Air Force veteran, and she was one of very few female mechanics in her squadron. So I knew that she would fit right in today, and that you guys would welcome her. All right, so I just want to say too, my beginning in this career path in this field, it started because I had always homeschooled our kids for about 12 years, and my husband one day had this, he had this bright idea, well, why don't we try something different? And I was like, oh, okay, and he said, well, I was thinking that maybe before you're too old, there might be something you like to do. On one hand, I was very touched because I just felt like he was being very considerate of my dreams. But on the other hand, I was just thinking, well, too old, doesn't that mean that I'm already old? And I don't think I'm old, but okay, I took it as a compliment. And so fast forward 3 years, now I work for a nationwide company. I fix ice machines. I'm sorry that. I don't know if it's better to be at a certain distance or just keep my voice down. But I work on ice machines for a living. I love the company I work for. They treat me so good, and I have so much fulfillment doing what I love to do. So be honest. How surprised would you be if on your next trip to the auto mechanic, you go to turn over your keys, and you're turning them over to a woman, and maybe you don't think that much about it at first, but then as she gets closer, you see her grease-stained coveralls and you realize she's the mechanic. Or maybe you hire a contractor to do some work for an extension on your house, and during the build, you see women pouring concrete, you see women installing electrical, and maybe even working on the roof. Now, a lot of people would be very surprised by this many women working in this type of field. And I will give you a personal perspective. As a woman in skilled trade, one of the things I find the most fascinating thing about my job is that I have a wide array of interactions and conversations. The reactions that I get from people range from shock and excitement to skepticism sometimes and a little doubt. And I often find people staring at me, and you can see they're wondering, is she actually going to be able to move that? Is she going to be able to move that piece of equipment? Is she going to be able to get this job done? And I ride around in a work truck, or right now a work van that has lap racks on it, and that alone I already, is possibly the battery, you think?
Yeah, I'm wondering too. It's cutting out, yeah.
How about we try it without? You have a projecting voice.
Okay. All right, yeah, it was distracting, so sorry about that. So the disbelief, though, and the looks of intrigue that I get are very interesting. And of course, the most touching interactions I get are when somebody just says very kind and complimentary things, and sometimes they've even had the chance to even inspire or impact a person. And when they tell me that, of course, it's very humbling, because I don't feel like I'm anybody that is somebody who would impact or inspire somebody, but of course if they tell me that, it means the world to me. So the fact is that the economy that we live in, with everything changing, it has a lot of needs for families that are struggling, and even moms that are struggling to make ends meet. And I'm still finding myself wanting to get close to that, even though it's not on. And so because of this thing, women, it's a simple fact, they have to work. And because women have to work, many find that getting into skilled labor is an avenue that they want to pursue. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with Rosie the Riveter. She was a cultural icon created during World War II in order to encourage and motivate women to get into the industrial workforce, because as I'm sure all of you know, all of these positions needed filled because the men were away at war. And since then, the acceptance of women doing these types of roles, it has only grown. But for some reason today, we still continue to see so few women in these positions. Now, as much as I get a great sense of fulfillment from my job, like many, I had to enter the workforce because no longer was one income in our family enough. My husband and I, for the majority of our marriage, we've done full-time ministry. And as full-time ministry workers, you tend to not have very much money. And so it's not a job you go into if you want to make money. And this left us unable to be able to afford hiring a repairman or getting new appliances. So often I would have to pick up broken appliances and get them either for free or almost free and just hope that I could somehow figure out a way to fix them. And so like many women during World War II, these types of financial challenges, they helped me realize that I was mechanically apt and that I loved fixing things, and that also you can learn how to do pretty much anything by Googling and doing YouTube. So when posed with the opportunity that my husband gave me, I knew right away I wanted to pursue a trade, and so I enrolled at State Fair Community College, and I decided to pursue two things: engineering, which I don't know why, for some reason I just suddenly wanted to become an engineer, and then industrial electrical maintenance. And so I am now the only female field service technician for a nationwide company that as of February had about 175 field technicians. So the three things I'd like to cover with you are three areas, being the small percentage of trade jobs that are held by women, the benefits for women going into trade, and three reasons preventing women from pursuing trade. So first we're going to take a look at what the statistics say about the women that we currently have working in the workforce. So in the workforce, just a little under half of the workforce is comprised of women. So Zippia.com is a job site that uses technical data from that, such as the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so from this information, they share that we can see that women make up a large portion of the workforce. And then if you start to break it down into the types of fields, we see that the fields most dominated by women are the fields of health and educational services and finance and hospitality. And so 75% of the workforce in health and education services are women, and then it's greater than 50% of women that work in finance and hospitality. And so these are types of jobs like nurses and teachers, employees at banks, restaurants, hotels. And many would agree that these are the types of fields it's very common to see women hold, because I think and I believe that it plays on the nature of what a lot of women have in common, which are patience and empathy, hospitality, and the desire to nurture. However, it's the industrial fields that once you begin to look at, you see it greatly diminish, and there is a very small percentage of women that work in these fields. So one of the higher ones is manufacturing. It's estimated that women make up about 30% of the workforce in manufacturing, while skilled labor positions such as electricians and plumbers, contractors, mechanics, they make up less than 5% of the workforce. Now in my company, one of 175, I am at less than 0.5%, or just over 0.5% of our workforce. So now that I've shown you a few of these, how few women are in my shoes, I'm going to look at some of the pros for women that may consider these jobs. So I assure you there are a lot, and I've experienced them. I've been offered some great opportunities since I decided to pursue this field. And one is that it requires limited time and costs. So FamilyHandyman.com is a great do-it-yourself resource. I actually have used it many times, and they estimate that the average four-year college degree costs over $100,000. Now for women with no college experience, little time, and a need for higher pay, it's a great convenience to be able to do what trade schools can do, which is offer less than a year at $35,000 before you're ready and trained to enter the workforce. Now for me, when I had this opportunity, I was short on time. I had 4 kids, and even though we decided to pursue something different than homeschooling, I was still very short on time, very short on money, and trade school was a great option for my family, and with scholarships and other financial opportunities, I didn't have to put out hardly any money at all. So the second great thing about these types of jobs is that they are essential. And having an essential job equates to job security. And so that's a great thing when you're looking to go into a career and you need to get paid, is having that security. So communities rely on skilled labor that we know, and it's for sustainability and for development. And these make them high in demand. So the third is that there's great starting pay, and there are many apprenticeship opportunities for people who have little to no training. I have found that typically the starting pay for a lot of these skilled labor positions when you start into an apprenticeship ranges from $18 to $24 an hour. And that can be with little education, the ability to continue education opportunities, and even get hourly pay while you're sitting in a college classroom, which I knew many guys to do. So whether you get vocational training first or you enter through an apprenticeship, you can start getting paid fast at competitive rates versus taking a job with no college degree or previous college training. So the fourth thing are the unique opportunities, which I have had many. So there are countless college grants and scholarships that are designed specifically for women that are pursuing STEM fields. And there's also a lot of support systems I have found. You ladies honestly encouraging other women to be able to learn and grow is a great social network and a great support system. So having the extended educational training can increase your income potential. Since starting my job, my company has given me numerous opportunities of training, and I've earned my EPA certification, I've gained refrigeration skills, and as a result, I was able to get a promotion. Now, 3 deterrents that a lot of women face. There are things that, of course, there are many things to choose from, but these are the things that I decided to categorize and the greater things that I thought were the most important. And one of the things is not things that you would think of, such as harassment and discrimination. The first is really big. So these jobs can be physically exhausting and demanding, but not impossible, thankfully, with modern technology. I have been able to lift equipment that's 3 times as large as me, thankfully, because there are lifts. Now, it does pose, however, physical risks to women who may be in their childbearing years, and those things need to be considered. It's also very difficult dealing with schedule challenges when you have small children. So our family dynamic, I will say, has changed drastically since I started this job. No longer am I at home or just doing something on the side and can be just a moment's notice back where I need to be. My days are unpredictable. I could be out 2 to 3 hours away from my house, and it could be 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'm working on an ice machine that I can't leave until the job is fixed or we have a solution in place. And so not having that predictability prevents me from being able to have plans set in stone throughout the week. It makes it very difficult to be present at school functions for my kids, and it also makes me unable to be available for even emergencies because I could be so far away. Now, add that in addition to my husband's job, which also has unpredictable hours. He works in the legislature, and there's no telling during session how long his days are going to be. So if it weren't for my mother-in-law living with us and having that family support system, I really and truly would not be able to do this type of job. So these are the things you have to consider. And many days I feel very bad for my husband. I often come home covered in bruises and cuts and burns. And I've even gotten a few black eyes, believe it or not, because I've gotten whacked in the face with something. And I feel very bad for him when we're out in public walking around and he senses people staring at him. So it's not always easy for him either. And then add to that the time between the time and the physical demands. By the time I get home, oftentimes I'm exhausted, I'm in pain, and it's very difficult to make myself be present for my kids. So another deterrent to this is the fact that there are very few role models. Now, this was who helped me get into the field I did, and I've never met her before. Her name is Tammy, and she was the program director for State Fair Community College for the Industrial Electrical Maintenance Program. She is actually an electrical engineer, and when I saw her in the catalog looking at the direction I wanted to go, I saw pictures of her standing next to all of this electrical equipment, and I knew because I saw a woman teaching that I was capable of doing it, and it allowed me to have that confidence to pursue that field just based off of that. So I've been very touched by multiple messages ever since I started just all of the different handy things that I do, as well as this career, because I've had girlfriends either message me or text me and say, you know, I had my refrigerator, my freezer break, and I just thought, you know, Kristin can do it, so I'm gonna tear this apart and see if I can figure it out myself. And so we might get into some trouble if we suddenly start seeing too many housewives like tearing their appliances. But it was touching nonetheless, and just inspiring women to not be afraid to tap into something that they might be able to figure out and learn. And I've even had somebody tell me, I just thought, what would Kristin do? I'm like, well, that might be a dangerous question to ask yourself, but nonetheless. So this last deterrent is probably the biggest one, which is the way that we tend to underestimate our own capabilities. So a study in the Collegiate Aviation Review, it revealed that the biggest thing holding women back from fields like aviation maintenance was their own belief about their self, or of course the lack thereof about their abilities. So before women started filling the roles in industry during World War II, no doubt the majority of them had no idea how to operate tools or had the confidence that they even knew how to do it. There were even ads that you might have known about that targeted housewives by saying things like, can you use an electric mixer? If so, you can learn how to use a drill. And so you can see why this was an issue, especially back in that time. But even among men, of course, not everybody's mechanically apt, and that's okay. My husband, he, doing what he does, he has a great mind, he's very brilliant, but my dad can testify he's not the person you want on a home project that's measuring and cutting, because my dad has had to fix many of his mistakes on certain projects we worked on together. My husband, he is directionally and mechanically challenged, and it's gotten to the point where now if the kids have something break, he's fine saying, you're just going to have to wait till mom gets home, and mom will fix it when mom gets home. So by exposing girls, though, at an early age to STEM activities and fields, we really can have such an impact on their self-confidence, on their self-discovery, and sparking interest in abilities that they don't even know that they have. So my dad always welcomed us girls when we were little into the shop. I had 3 sisters, and he did all kinds of woodworking, and he had no problem ever encouraging us even to be out there and experimenting with tools and just having fun. So just in the last 3 years on the confidence, to demonstrate the confidence this can build, I had a lot of anxiety and self-doubt when I first started this position. And the confidence that this job has given me has just been unbelievable, and it's been incredibly helpful. So a lot of this boils down to believing that we can do it and we do belong. So I've been very blessed by having some amazing managers that have been very supportive and very encouraging to me, and they vocalize anytime that they see that I'm working hard, and it means a lot to me, and those things too help in building your confidence. And so the truth is that the women who experienced these things in World War II, they had to be confronted with a reality that caused them to dig deep and discover just what they were capable of. And they learned that they even enjoyed it. And as men became to return to the States from the war, they actually were having to put new ads out targeting women to go back to the home. And instead of Rosie the Riveter, she became Rosie the Housewife. And you would see her talking about freezers, and you want to cook your food and you could store it in this deluxe freezer. Just be Rosie the Riveter, or be like Rosie the Riveter and return to normalcy. Because so many women realized that they enjoyed these things and wanted to stay there. So now when you think of women in skilled trade, I really do hope that you'll learn the staggeringly few women that are in these fields. You'll understand better the opportunities that are available to women pursuing this path, and you'll be more aware of some major hurdles that we have to overcome if we want to be in this field. Now for me, it actually brings to mind a moment from a Tinkerbell movie, which I'm a big Disney fan, so if you've never seen it, this gives the backstory of how Tinkerbell came to be, and how she was born and how she became a talented tinkerer. So as she walks by all of these displays of tools, she passes by, or items, not just tools, she passes by the hammer. And at the time that she passes by the hammer, it begins to light up and glow, and she finds herself curiously drawn to it. And as she goes over and she grabs hold of it, it erupts in this bright ray of light, and everybody around watching were just shocked and gasped because they couldn't believe a tiny little fairy could be such a talented tinkerer. And so this is it for so many girls and for so many women. There's so much capability and untapped talent that's waiting to be discovered. So in closing, I just have a few thoughts I want to leave you with. Challenge yourself. You'll never know what you're capable of until you step outside your comfort zone. Never stop learning, because we need to want and display to the younger generations that you're never too old to learn new skills. And never ever let yourself believe that you're not strong enough, smart enough, or stubborn enough to face and get through any obstacle you face in life, whether it be in the job or in the home, because you can do it. Thank you.